One of my favorite things to do is to make myself proud, to feel proud of how I showed up. I love that feeling. And it usually comes from after I've done something that was scary for me or just challenging, like the feeling of like, yes, like I'm proud of you. You did that thing. I know it was scary. I know it was hard, but you did it. And that's awesome. Like, you know what I'm talking about, that feeling. I like to think about it as playing big in my life. And today in the show, we're talking all about that, what it looks like to play big in your life. And we have a special guest on the show. It's my friend Jill Schmieding. So Jill is originally from Nebraska. She now lives in Denver, Colorado. And she loves, being outside, dancing. She just got into like salsa dancing. That's one of the ways that she's been playing big, stepping out of her comfort zone. She loves hiking. She likes to geek out about personal development stuff like some of us listening to the show like to do, right? Learn all the things. You just want to live your best life and you're trying to like soak up all the knowledge to do so. That's the kind of person that Jill is. And Jill likes to just connect with, as she would say, everyday women. So I thought like someone like Jill, like come on the show as your everyday girl who's an amazing facilitator, who just is just so fun to hang out with. And the reason I'm bragging on Jill right now is because I'm so excited because she's offering a $29 group coaching thing that I'm going to be a part of related to playing big. We're going to talk more about it as the show goes on. You're going to hear about it today, but listen up, because if this is something that you feel like you're called to do, like this summer, like you're like, I want to play big this summer. I want to play big in my life. $29, less than $1 a day for this month thing where you get to connect with a cool community. Come hang out with us. It'd be so fun to chat about this stuff. You're going to see how fun it is as we start talking on today's episode. So, with that little intro being said, I'm going to turn it over to Jill. And I asked her, like I edited this out, just keeping it real because I had this weird background noise. I'm like, guys, I'm janky up in here. This has been my favorite word of the week, janky. I'm staying at an Airbnb in New Hampshire, and there's not proper lighting or like the right setup, I guess, to do recording of things. So I found this little cute table on the side of the road back in, what state was it? Pennsylvania or something like that. I forget what state. I found it on the side of the road and I like picked it up. Sometimes there's stuff on the side of the road that's free and they're like, should I get that? Or does that have bed bugs in it? I don't know. Well, I grabbed the thing and this little table and I brought it with me. I've been carrying it around in my car for a while. Anyways, it came in handy because I'm using it right now to record in this janky place, but I love it and I'm excited. So I'm janky is what I'm trying to say. And I'm here for this. And anywho, there was a weird noise in the background when I was recording this. Why do you have to hear my whole life story? Right? Why? Like, can we just get out with the episode? Okay, I will. Let's go. All right, I'm in this shaky place, edited it out, and now I'm turning it over to Jill to tell us how she got involved in playing big. Like, how did she become obsessed with it? Because she's always talking about playing big. This girl never stops talking about playing big, and I love this about her. So, turn it over. Jill, how did you get involved in this whole playing big stuff?
I really love to seek out advice from people and I love to seek out help. And so a few years ago, I was actually looking to get some career advice. And so I started working with a career coach and she was really good. And she recommended a couple different books to me. And one of the books that she recommended was Playing Big by Tara Moore. And I think she just kind of handed it off to me like a one-off thing, but it actually has changed my life for the better and really has kind of put me on a trajectory which I never saw coming for sure. So that's how I got into playing big, was just working with her career coach a few years ago.
So it's kind of like you started playing big because you got obsessed with it because you stepped out and started playing big in a sense for you to like get that coach and explore all the things.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I love that because I haven't actually read the book, but I've heard of it. But I know me and you have like geeked out about all the things playing big. So that got me thinking about the whole concept of playing big. Like, what does it actually mean? Like, what does it mean to you?
To me personally, or do you want me to tell you what Tara Moore says?
Let's do both.
Okay, yeah, I'll start with Tara. So I'll give you an overview of what she mentions in her book, that playing big looks different for everybody, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But she also talks about it's bridging the gap between what you see in yourself and what others see in you. And it could be again, it could be your career, it could be a passion project, it could be personal stuff. You can play big in all those different arenas, and it looks different for everybody. And that's really what I've learned quite a bit, talking to friends and doing different things for the last few years, trying to kind of pull people towards playing big and trying new things and kind of walking through fear, like walking along fear, I guess I should say. You don't ever really get over it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's her definition in a nutshell, by the way. I highly recommend just reading the book. But my definition of playing big is, yeah, it's doing, can I swear? Because I'm a sailor.
Yeah, go ahead. It's all
Okay,
good.
cool. So it's really, it's
Oh wait,
working.
let's clarify. So if you have any kids that are listening right now, earmuffs, go ahead.
Yeah, earmuffs. I'm sorry. I'm going to be my true self here. But I would say it's just really working through fear and pushing through that stuff. Now I'm not even swearing now that I've asked for permission. That's hilarious. But but
That
it's
happens.
yeah, it's working through the scary shit. That's what I was going to say. And really walking alongside fear. That's one thing I will say that I've learned about playing big is, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, it's always going to be a bit scary, but on the other side of it, like, you feel alive. And I have a great example that I can give you a little bit later on, but it's just like, man, I feel so alive when I play
Ooh,
big, even though it is scary as shit. It is so freaking scary. And I still have issues. I still have a lot of ways in which I can't play big. You know what I'm saying? That I'm still trying to figure out.
like you're working through the fear
Working through it.
around that. But
Yeah,
I love
correct.
your definition of how it's like when you're on the other side of playing big, like when you've done that scary thing, that oftentimes we're going to get into this, isn't always some big thing,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's something small, but it really scares you. But when you get over that and you go on the other side of it, it's like you do feel so alive. Like you're like, I did that thing. Like you're so freaking proud of yourself. I think that's how you know if you've been playing big. Is like if you've been uncomfortable and then you've also felt that feeling on the other side of it was like, yes, I'm proud of you. You
Yeah.
did that thing.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah, that's exactly right.
So tell us then, I guess, a story of yours of how you've played big.
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, so again, back to the whole idea that it's big and small. I have, yeah, so I'll just say this. In the book, she talks about one of the later chapters, I think it was chapter 9, maybe 8 or 9. She talks about leaping. And leaping is doing something before you're feeling 100% prepared. And being that I want to say that I'm a recovering perfectionist. Nothing I do is ever perfect, first of all. So I don't know why they call it a perfectionist, but I am a recovering perfectionist. And so I want everything to be perfect before I do things. And leaping is all about doing things before you're 100% prepared. That's really hard for me. So years ago, when I was working through the book, I was like, okay, I want to do a book group, and we talked about it, me and the career coach, and she was just like, okay, fine. And yeah, I was just like, but before I do that, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do all this other things. And she was just like, yeah, no, that's not how this works. And so I did. I took a leap of faith and I put together some really, um, I brought together some really close friends who I felt like were super forgiving. So if I didn't do a very good job, they weren't gonna, be mad at me or anything like that. And it actually has really blossomed into an amazing thing in which I ran a couple different book groups. All of the women who attended the book group have grown tremendously in regards to playing big and putting themselves out there and asking for what they want and using their voice. And oh my God, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And then we came together for a little reunion this last summer, and we all just kind of sat around the table with our little Moscow mules.
How
And
fun.
yeah, and all of us went around the table and said how we've played big over the last year, because it was a reunion sort of thing. And so it just warms my heart to see women and amazing women, everyday women. That's one of the things where I'm like, these are chicks that are just like me. We work our 9 to 5.
Yeah.
We're not New York bestsellers. We're not um, authors or whatever. We're not multimillionaires. We're just amazing everyday women, um, really just, yeah, using our voice and putting ourselves out there. So that was one way that I've played big. And that was a big way that's really changed my life and put it on a trajectory in which I've learned quite a
So
bit.
I have to say, like, so you say that that situation was you playing big. Definitely agree with that. And that has me thinking about, like, obviously there was a fear associated with you, like, offering that book club and that whole experience and all of that stuff. So what was that really about? Like, what was going on there? I'm just curious.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's fear of embarrassment, I think, maybe. I mean, I'm not, you think I would have talked to my counselor about this, but I think I'm just fearful of like putting yourself out there and having people be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or man, she's a
Yeah.
terrible facilitator, right? Which I know I am an excellent facilitator. I
I'm
start
so
on
proud of you
time.
for saying that.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I start on time. I do not. And this is one of the things that the girls always was like, oh my God, if it's from 6 to 7:30, it is from 6 to 7:30. And oh, yeah, and I'll bring up something a little bit later, but it's like it's from 6 to 7:30. I make sure that I respect other people's times, a
Yeah.
time, because it's very valuable. And so that's one of the things that the girls always were just like, man, we know you're not going to mess around. We're going to move through the agenda. We're going to have fun time talking and chatting. But yeah, I just really am.
So you've grown so much since you've done this. Obviously, you've gained confidence
Yeah,
in your facilitation skills, all that stuff. But initially, you had this fear around, in a sense, what people would think about you. Like if you
correct.
did do this thing, and then you did the thing, and it felt so freaking good, and then you gained this confidence, and now you're sitting here saying, like, owning your stuff,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
this is who you are.
And not only that, but it's like I've learned by doing, right? Because I'm always a
Mm-hmm.
person who reads all these books, watches all these YouTube videos, listens to podcasts. I absorb so much information, or at least I try to absorb so much information, but it's just like by doing is how you learn. And that's really hard. But I've learned some really valuable skills that I have now by doing those, right? Teaching, training, facilitating. That's like a huge passion for me, and I would have never really learned that if I didn't take this step of faith and
If you
take
didn't
the
choose to
leap.
play big,
Yeah,
and if you
correct.
didn't follow that curiosity. And like that's a big thing there is like if you're getting curious about something, like you're like, oh, this sounds fun, but then there's that other part of you that's like, that's scary, you're freaking out a little bit on the inside. It's like play big in that space, because I think you're being called to that space. Like you're being called to go through that challenge so you can get to the other side of the bridge.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I want to tell you one more example, if you're willing to
Yeah.
hear a little
Oh.
story. I say in long story short, but if anyone knows me, it's a long story long. So um, my favorite line is in a nutshell. Yeah, it's never in a
Oh my,
nutshell.
that's
And
my favorite line too. And I'm
yeah,
like, that was totally not in a nutshell at all. If you listen to the show, I say that often. It's never in a nutshell.
it's never in a
Okay.
nutshell, but I like to, I'm a good storyteller.
You
So yeah,
are.
yeah. So I just recently went up to Fort Collins. Like you said, I'm from Denver. Went up to Fort Collins with a group of dancers because I salsa dance, bachata dance, and just getting into that in the last few months, it's been a life changer for me, for the better. And went up to Fort Collins to go dancing. We had two different places that we were going to go to, and one of them was more of a club. One of them was more of like a very kind of adult bar type of scene, right? Both of them had dancing, Latin dancing, and I was with an amazing group of people who I felt super safe with, and I mean, they all had my back, and vice versa. And something though, and this is something I've been talking with my counselor about, something happened. I guess I don't know if it was some like PTSD from when I was a child or some trauma unresolved, but when I went into the club, in which I didn't necessarily feel comfortable going into it, but as a group we wanted to try out the two places. And so I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this club scene. Like I just felt a bit unsettled, but we went in anyways. There was nothing to be scared about. Really, there was nothing. So I don't know what was coming up inside of me. But however, there was a young kid that was there, and because it was definitely a younger crowd. And to say the least, I confronted him about something. I accused him actually of doing something um, that was inaccurate. And my friends were very much like, "Hey, Jill, you need to, you need to like, you shouldn't have done that." Actually, my friends were like, "You shouldn't have done that," and I was just like, So then, and I was in the wrong, and I felt super embarrassed, but I also felt like I was just protecting my friend's belongings, and so I felt like I was doing the right thing, but there was something, yeah, something that I didn't feel comfortable with.
So did you think that he like stole something
Correct.
or
Yeah,
okay?
correct. Yeah. So I confronted him, and yeah, and he didn't steal anything. And so this is another way that I played big. My gut told me like I needed to apologize to that man.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were dancing and he was coming back and forth, but he was always with his friends. And then I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like the Lord kind of opened up that opportunity for me because he was by himself. So my group was about to leave for the night, and I was dancing with a gentleman, and then the song got over with, and then that young man was by himself off to the side. And so I was just like, okay. So I walked up to him, tapped him on his shoulder, and his face. This is the thing. I've been reading a book, Cues by Vanessa Van
Oh,
Edwards, I think.
I'm obsessed with Vanessa Van Edwards.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I
great
love
book.
it. Yes.
So body language, I'm trying to learn how to read body language. And his face was definitely, when I tapped on his shoulder, his face was definitely like defensive, you know what I mean? And I immediately said to him, I was just like, "Hey, I just want to say that I am sorry for earlier, and I really wanted to apologize." And his face immediately like softened. I saw it like right before my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Hey, thanks." And we shook hands, and he was like, "Have a good night." And I was like, "Yeah, have a good night." And I walked away. So I felt super good about that because I know that I was in the wrong 100%. But boy, that's scary to walk up to someone and, have to
Yeah. And to admit
apologize.
that you were in the
Yeah.
wrong. Cause like I think most people in that situation would have just been like, whatever. Like I'm gonna just maybe you feel wrong inside, but you're still gonna like dance and do your thing and act like
Yep.
it kind of isn't a big deal. But I what I love about that is like you also paid attention to your own energy and you're like, I don't want to hold on to this.
Yeah.
And the thing that would make me feel better is if I just do the dang thing, like you always say, like go over there and apologize and even just do it also for you, like not just for
Yes.
them but for you and your own energy, so you're not holding on to that anymore. And I love too, Jill, like I feel like you just sharing that story was an example of you playing big, because I'm not so sure that everybody would share that exact story about like or story of where they were wrong and then they had to
Yeah.
like deal with their ego in that process. But I
Yes.
do feel like this whole playing big thing, it's like I do feel like you truly listen to your intuition, like you're getting called to something. Like I was listening earlier to something and it was talking about how this person was asked, like, what is the thing that you know that you need to do? What is that thing? And that got me thinking, like, if I asked anyone that's listening right now, what is that thing that you know you need to do? Something shows up for you. You're thinking of something, you need to do that thing. And I bet you haven't done that thing because there's fear associated with it. Now we're asking you to play big and like not let that fear get in the way of you living your best life. It's like, what was Tara's definition again of playing big?
Well, she mentions bridging the gap between what we see in you and what you see in yourself. And
Oh,
she talks about the inner mentor and the inner critic, which we don't have necessarily time to get into today, but just great information about channeling either your inner mentor, versus what I do. I do a lot of seeking other people's opinions and advice, but I have it within myself to know what I need to do.
yeah.
And so she talks about that, the inner mentor and the inner critic,
Oh, I
which
love that you're saying that, because I think about so often, like as a coach, I have clients that will say, well, and what do you think I should do? Especially when it comes to like their job stuff. Should I take, like, I had a client recently, should I take this job or that job? Like, what do you think I should do? And I was like, you know what to do.
yeah,
And I just like put it back on them. It's like, you know, and they're like, you're right. I do know. And I was like, yes, like that's an
Yes.
example of you listening to that voice.
Absolutely. And I think the more you listen to your intuition, the stronger it gets. I know for me, I am working on that and trusting my intuition.
Me
And it
too.
does, yeah, it definitely is a good thing to be able to like hone in on and strengthen that muscle, so to
Don't
speak.
you feel like there's times in your life where you like you knew your intuition was telling you something and like you did
Yeah, it happened
not
like
listen to it?
yesterday.
And then you're like, damn it. Like I should have listened to that voice because you knew, and then it led to like, so what happened yesterday? Because now I'm
Oh,
curious.
well, I mean, I'm just saying it happens like every day. I don't know if I have a perfect example for yesterday, but it definitely happens often where I'm like, oh, should have went with my gut, you know?
Yeah,
Oh
like the
my
other
gosh,
day that happened to
bad.
me where when I was driving, so I played big. This is, 'cause I was thinking about this on the drive this morning when I was dropping Ian off on the trail, driving through the mountains. I was like, what if Jill asked me about how I played big recently? Like, how have I played big? You know, and I was like really thinking about it. And then initially, like your mind wants to be like, I don't know, like there's nothing that you played big, but it can be like small things like we talked about, like
Yes.
times like where, you know, I told someone how I really felt about something, even though I knew it was going to piss them off. And just like staying true to like my true self or like what I wanted. Even like the other day, a friend had asked me, to do something with her, and I felt terrible because I was like, I hadn't seen her in a long time, but like it just really was not a good time. I had so much going on, and I like part of me playing big was like being honest with her and saying like, no, she's like, I don't want to see you kind of thing right now. Like obviously I said it in a way better way than I'm saying here, but I was proud of myself for like honoring myself through that. I mean, doing it from a place of love even towards her, but that's like a small example of something like you play big. But the other day, speaking of the intuition, I was playing big because I did this like little road trip by myself, flew to Newark, and then I was like over 7 hours away from where I had to meet Ian. And my goal was like, even though it scared me, I was like, you're going to drive through like the New York City traffic, all the other places that you're uncomfortable with. You're going to drive through it. You're going to stop in the 3 states that you missed because I want to do all 14 states of the AT, like hike them myself. And I was like, you're going to stop in all of those and you're going to hike by yourself, even if you're like freaked out and like you get like, it's not like I'm scared to hike by myself, but sometimes, you know, you get thoughts in your mind, like
Oh,
where
yeah.
it's like serial killer back in the woods, no one's around me kind of thing. Like those thoughts pop in my mind, even though I'm like in the woods all the time. It's like, what the hell? But anyways, so I was like, you're going to stop in those locations and you're going to hike by yourself alone in the woods and, you know, whatever. So I was like, that's me playing big and like driving through this area. I didn't know where I was going to stay for the night. And I was like proud of myself because I'm like, you're going to be brave and you'll trust that you'll figure this out. Well, anyways, I was driving to I decided where I was going to stay, like, and I was headed towards there, put it in the GPS and I felt like I looked down and I was like, oh yeah, it's the same distance when I looked earlier, the same amount of time. And then I realized like, okay, so I drive there. It's like an additional 2.5 hours or whatever. Drive to the place. It's the middle of freaking nowhere, nothing around. And it was like, you have arrived. And I was like, no, I haven't. Because I'm like looking around. There's like nothing around. I'm like, oh, okay, beep. Anyways,
Yeah, beep,
so
right.
I look at my GPS and I like realized that it was like of the wrong town. So it was the same road address, like
Oh,
all that stuff, but it was a completely different town. Mind you, it's like midnight and I'm so tired, like delirious. Like I was struggling to even like make it to that point. And I was like, I was like, you, and earlier I remember like getting that like ping, like when I looked down at the address, I'm like, double check the address. Like the subtle voice was like, double check address. And I was like, meh, like ignored it, you know? And then I like end up there. And then at that point in time, when I was late, it was late and I was tired. I still had a choice to make. And I was like, okay, I went back to my mantra, like everything is happening for you. Some way this is happening for you. And I thought at the very least, I can use this as a story and teach other people about managing your mind. Cause
exactly.
I really wanted to like scream and cry, but I like didn't even have the energy to do so. But it was just like a learning experience for me. It's like, okay, listen to that intuition. And then also, now that you're here, what can you do about it? Like, how are you going to make this a good scenario for you? Like, get the best out of this. And I started listening to like nerdy brain science stuff that I geek out about in the wee hours of the night about like how the mind works and, you know, things I was obsessed about. So I was like geeking out about that, brainstorming podcast topics. So like it ended up turning out well. But anyways, there's just been so many other times in my life where I remember one other time, like intuition wise, I was sleeping and I woke up early. No, it was before I went to bed. And I had my yoga mat out, and it was like a brand new yoga mat. And I had a pig that lived with me a long time ago in the house. People know the story, but my pig Wally lived with me. And anyways, he woke up early and I remember thinking, wait, that I should roll up that mat and put it away. I got that intuition like ping, and I was like, nah, it's
Yes.
okay. Wally doesn't ever wake up before me. Like he always sticks around me. Well, that morning, Wally freaking woke up before me and went out. I woke up to the sound of my yoga mat shredding. It was like a
Oh
brand new,
no.
expensive to me yoga mat. And it was like, shoo, shoo. And I was like, I should have listened to my
Oh,
intuition.
yes, you should
So,
have.
anyways, there's like examples of, I don't know, intuition is a huge part of like playing big, is like
Yes.
following that voice. And it doesn't mean that the thing that you're about to do isn't going to be scary or hard. In fact, it's most likely going to be. But
Yes.
feeling that like ping, like, and then also like when you're in it, when you're in the hard stuff, noticing it then too to guide you through it, you know?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I
those are
need to
great stories,
hear,
by the way.
yeah, they're so random because I didn't think of those, but before this, but yeah. Um, anywho, you know how I rant. I'm curious though, because I know that you have more stories, and I'm sure people would like to hear like another story, I guess from someone else that you know that has played big,
Sure.
or maybe it wasn't to someone else. Maybe we wouldn't have thought of it as a big thing, but it was a big thing for them.
Yes, I do actually have an example. And this is a friend who has been married, and I applaud people that have been married for so many years, right? And so yeah, she's always had her husband, right, as her best friend, as her ride or die, right?
Mhm.
And partner in life. And so this particular person went in to get her nails done, and at a salon, like a nail salon. And she didn't ask like how long it was going to take for the appointment, like how long before she could get her nails done. But she sat down in the chair and she was sitting there, and she realized, man, I just don't have time for this. But instead of just playing big, in my personal opinion, and just using her voice and saying, excuse me, I don't have time, or actually just being like,
Ooh.
hey, excuse me, like how long is it going to take before you guys start doing my nails? She couldn't do that. And so she did actually reach out to her husband, to kind of fake a little emergency, to call her on her cell phone. And and so she got her emergency call from her husband, and she left, the place, of course, because of the emergency, the fake emergency. But, for her, it is one of those things where, one, I'm just super happy that she had her husband there to support her and to be there and help her out. But I would love to see her grow in her ability to use her voice and say, hey, you know what, like I changed my
Yeah.
mind. And one of the things that one of my previous counselors, I love counselors, by the way, and therapists, but one of my previous counselors gave me a list of like 25 Bill of Rights. And it's one of the Bill of Rights that I really live by is I have the right to change my mind.
Ooh,
And
I
a lot
love
of
it.
people, yeah, a lot of people, it's hard for them, right? They're like, oh, well, I said I was going to do this, so now I just need to stick with it. And believe me, I fall in that bucket quite a bit
Oh, me
too.
too. All this, like even when you're at a restaurant, like ordering something, and sometimes you're like,
Oh,
you
yes.
put your order in, and then you're like, oh wait, no, I think I want this other thing. Like I do that, like back and forth a million times, and then sometimes I'm like, no, don't say anything because then you seem ridiculous, or you're gonna be, like
Yes.
that chatter kicks in when it's like, this is a meal of my freaking life.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
why am I so obsessed about like worrying about what someone else thinks about me? This is my precious time that I will never get back.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
it's just interesting to think about, because like with your friend, even like, and it may have been even too like maybe this was even a step for her, like where she faked the call, which been there, done that. We all done something like that. I did that the other day, pretended I was talking to someone when I thought this guy might be a potential killer.
On the
Anyways,
trail, on the trail
yeah,
in
I
one
was
of those
like
three
middle of
states.
nowhere. Yeah, this guy looked a little sketch. I was by myself, and I picked up my phone and I was like, hey honey, yes, I should meet you in about
That's
5 minutes.
awesome.
Yeah. Oh, you're over there. Okay. Like, I did that. But
That's awesome.
anywho, yeah. So we've all done that maybe like fake
Yeah.
taco to get out of something, you know, all the things. But
Yeah.
I feel like for her, it could have even been that could have been playing big in the sense of like it was still uncomfortable for her to walk out, you
Yes.
know, and to
Yes.
even fake that call to begin with. Like maybe the next step in her growing would be actually her just speaking her truth in that moment. But like
Correct.
kudos to like even just being willing to be uncomfortable to walk out. Cause I used to think about when I taught yoga, like when people would show up late for yoga class, and not that I'm like, oh, always show up late kind of thing. But I'm thinking like, I used to be so proud of those people because I was like, I know you had to work through some mind trash to walk in the door because you're
Yes.
probably thinking to yourself, oh, I'm going to interrupt the class. Like, you
Everyone's going to be
know,
looking at me.
yeah, all
I'm
of
going to
that
have to
mind
sit in the
trash.
front row. All those things, by the way. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't want to sit in the front row. I want to be in the
So
back.
it's like I've done times where I was running late for something and I was like, well, I'm not going to show up now. And then it's like you're pissed because you're like, well, I still could have got some of it in, you know, but then
Yeah.
it's like, and your day kind of like goes downhill from there. You feel like that. But it's like playing big may look like you showing up late to something when the
Yes.
old you would have just made up a story about how now you're not worthy of showing up there, you
Correct.
know?
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
I love talking about this stuff because it's like this is like real stuff. So this got me thinking about like what are the things that we should consider, like if there was three things that we should consider when we're playing big, what would you say those are?
Yeah. It's a great question. First and foremost, because like I said, I recently started salsa dancing,
Mm-hmm.
that has changed my life for the better. I will just say it has been number one, the community, right? And so, community of
Yeah.
people, like the reason why I keep going back to the lessons when they're uncomfortable, when I make a mistake, when I feel foolish, right? Is because I have people there rooting me on, cheering me on, or rooting for me and cheering me on. I have my friends that are just like, you got this. Like, it's a growth, it's a journey. Like, you're not going to be a professional dancer. I don't even want to be a professional dancer. I just want to feel the
Have fun.
music, have fun. Yeah, social dance. And they're there to support me and cheer me on. And it is like, I think number one thing for playing big is to have a community. And I know that can look really challenging because I just want to piggyback off that and say that before I started dancing, I'm a very, gregarious, extrovert type of person for the most part. I mean, obviously, COVID changed me a little bit, but because I live alone, but I'm very gregarious, and so I will say I've always had friends, but I'm very guilty of like before dance, I would be at home on the weekends, chilling, watching Netflix or something, and not the chill and not watching, not the good watch and chill and Netflix type of thing when you got another
Yeah.
man with you. You know what
The
I'm trying
other
to
side
say.
of it.
The other side of it,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm talking about I'm actually watching Netflix and chilling on my couch. And
Like
so,
playing small, almost like in a sense of like hiding from the world, isolating, like kind of thing. Like
yeah, yeah,
sometimes we do
yeah.
it in that way or numbing. Like sometimes it looks
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So anyways, my point is that I have that community now. And so now I go out, I go dancing, I push through, I play big every single weekend by doing that. And it's because of my community, is
And
what
you
I'm
feel
trying to
so
say.
alive and you feel so good, like
Oh,
after the fact.
amazing. Amazing.
And
And
you,
then somebody else, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, somebody else in the dance community and I were just talking. He was a gentleman that I was talking to, and he was just like, everything else seems so much better in my life now that this part is on point, because we're both enjoying the
Yes.
dance and we enjoy our lives. Work is better. And I would second that. My full-time job is, like it's good, right? And other areas of my life are really
It's
good.
because you're like, you're generating more of that kind of energy that like where you're making yourself proud. Oh, my calendar notification just went off, but you're making yourself proud and you're like doing the creative thing. And it's like you're playing big. If you play big in one area of your life, you're
Yeah,
going to feel the benefits of that in all areas of your life because you're showing up differently to all of
correct.
those things. The
Yes, correct.
community, hands down. And it's not, and it's also about like the right kind of community that like you can talk to about these kinds of things. Like, cause I'm thinking about you, Jill, like as my friend, like I can talk to you about like my playing big crap. Like I'll be like, I told this person this thing, you know, and it really scared me. And it's like, you can be like, I'm so proud of you. Cause like I know that was
Yes.
so hard for you. And like having a friend like that or a community is so freaking helpful.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I agree.
number one, probably
Yeah.
the biggest thing when it comes to playing big in your life, like you have to have a community that helps
Yeah.
you play big. You can't do it
Correct.
on your own. I really do believe that.
I agree. Yeah. It doesn't, it will, and yes, and I don't mean that you can't do, like, let's say you want to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
You're obviously going to maybe like, okay, now I have to start eating healthy. I have to start going to the gym. But I think in essence, you're going to still have some sort of community to like encourage you. But
Yeah, or
yeah,
just in
so
general,
that's
like if you think of someone playing big in their life, like they have a community that supports them in some way. Not to say that you
correct.
can't like do a scary thing on your own specifically, but like generally speaking, you will eventually need support to keep
Correct. To
playing
keep
big.
going. Exactly. I
Yeah,
think that's key to keep going. Cause like I have really good
right.
nights where I dance and amazing, da da da. But then the next night I'm like, I had, let's say I had a terrible time. And then I'm just like, but then I know that I'm going to go back and I'm going to see my friends. So that's like,
Yeah.
that's a win-win, right? But number two, I would say is knowing that it is a lifelong journey, hands down. Like I think even Tara Moore talks about that in the book. It is just a journey. There is no arrival at playing big. There's no end destination, right? It's just about learning
Yes.
about yourself, enjoying the ride, as they say, and knowing that it's a lifelong journey.
This
So
is why I think everybody should have goals and like a vision that they're working towards, because I think we're designed to like obviously always keep growing and playing big. Like that makes us feel really good. And I was thinking about, like, my husband was just saying when he's finishing the AT soon, how he's like, I got to be thinking about like what's the next thing I want to work towards. And it makes sense because it's like, yeah, you want to keep playing big, so you want to find something else that can challenge you so you keep growing, because it makes you feel freaking alive.
yes,
So it's,
correct.
yeah, this lifelong journey concept is huge. Like you don't just like play big once. Obviously, you're the kind of person that continues to play big. If you're listening to the show right now, that's who you are. You're committed to continuously showing up and like living your best life, like doing the hard stuff that helps you be who you really want to be. So
Yeah.
what's the third thing that you would say?
That it's always going to be a bit scary, and it's
Yes.
really not something that you're going to necessarily get over. And when it does feel scary, it means you're doing the right thing, in my personal opinion,
Yes.
because
Because
that
if it
just means you're
wasn't,
getting out of your comfort zone.
yeah, because if it wasn't scary or challenging, it's like, would you really be that proud of yourself? Would you really feel that alive? Like when I think of when I go do something, and it's not like it needs to, I'm not like saying voting for like life has to be hard. I'm like not casting a vote for that. I'm just saying like it feels like I feel so much more alive when I do something where it's like that was scary for me, and it's like, yes, like that felt so good. I'm proud of myself that I did that thing, versus like if life was always easy. Like that would be boring if it was like always like never facing an obstacle, like nothing, like, because then it feels like you wouldn't be like growing kind of thing. But some of us like subconsciously try to create a life where there's no discomfort, but then we're really not truly happy when you think about it. People that try to do that are often the people that stay in their bubble and try to stay safe and all that. They're often the people that I would say are the least happiest, you know? It's
Yeah.
interesting to think about.
Yeah, I have people in my life like that, and I'm just, you do, yeah. You see them, and you're just like, oh my gosh, if you would just do this, if you would just do that. But I also have people speaking that truth to me, right? It's like, well, Jill, if you
Me
would just do
too.
this, and if you would just do that. So I'm finally taking those steps in my life that people have been telling me for years. You should be doing this, you should be doing that, and I'm just
You're
like, yeah,
finally
yeah, yeah.
doing the dang thing, like you
I
always
am.
say.
I'm
That's
doing the
like your
dang thing.
quotes.
Doing the dang thing. Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
and not only are you doing the dang thing, you're helping other people do the dang thing. So, tell
Yes.
us about the group. Like when we talked about community being important, tell us about the group experience that you're offering coming up really quick here. Tell us about
Really
it.
quick. Yeah, absolutely. So I am one thing that someone told me was recently was, hey, you are the accountabilitist, because I offer some really positive accountability to people in my community. And so if you check out www.theaccountabilitist.com, you will see the course that I'm running in the month of July, which will be every Thursday night. We're going to just work through Tara Moore's book, The Playing Big, kind of talk about that. I'm going to also incorporate a couple other books that I've read.
Gonna Jillify the whole experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Jillify everything and just really take all the information that I take in. I'm going to try to share it with the world and help other people, specifically women, everyday women, play big and learn some of the concepts that I've learned.
And I'm going to do this thing, and it starts with like, you have a Playing Big bingo sheet, which I think is really fun. So like things that you could do.
Yes.
We can chat and nerd out about like the ways that we're playing big. It could just be a really fun thing to do, especially for the summer. So this is starting when?
This is starting July 7th, I believe. July 7th. So every Thursday in July, and it'll be on Zoom. And so anyone in the world.
And tell us how much it is, because people are wondering that.
I know, right? It is $29.
$29 freaking dollars. Okay.
I know.
Can we just like acknowledge that like it's less than $1 a day that you are committing to playing big for you, for yourself. Yes. And guys, I remember, like, I love the summer feeling of this, because it might look like, who knows what it could look like for people and what opportunities will open up when they play big, and how much fun conversations we could have about this for $29. Like you can show up if you miss a Zoom, no big deal, it's recorded. Like if something comes up, but it's like at least committing to that you are playing big is gonna be really important. Because I remember a while back in the summertime, I committed to playing big in my life and doing the things that scared me. That was my commitment. Like I am going to do all the things that scare me. And that's how I met my freaking husband. So like, it's very special to me, like this whole concept of like playing big in the summer. I think it's exciting. And we want you guys to come do it with us. Jill's going to be leading it. I'll be there, like being your own personal cheerleader like I do.
I love it.
So
I love it.
It'll be really fun.
Absolutely.
So again, you need to go to theaccountabilitist.com to sign up ASAP to do it.
Absolutely. And you will get that bingo sheet, which it's got all different kinds, right? It's
like the most fun bingo ever.
I know, right? Yeah, it's like you got the whole shootaroo, different options of playing big there, just to get you started right away, and then
bingo ladies, like the best kind.
Yes.
All right, Jill. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Tell people also where they can find you on social media and all that good stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. So I have a Facebook group called Aspire for More. And so you can check me out there, and you can also go to like we mentioned, theaccountabilitist.com. You will find my Instagram at the bottom of the page there, so you can connect with me if you want to do it that way. So I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and then just that website.
Sweet. All the info that she just talked about, I'll also put in the show notes. If you click on the details of this episode, you'll be able to find that there. But definitely come play big with us, because there's no better freaking time than now to start playing big in your life so you can live your best life.